Hello, everybody. Let's see if I can get this. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Trevor Assman. Yes, that is correct. Assman is my last name. It's more than okay to laugh at it. It's okay. I kept it, so that's kind of my fault. My husband over there, Jesse, he decided not to take my last name. But that's okay, too. I was told tonight that, of course, I'm going to be doing my story. And as I was thinking about the different stories in my life, I've had many. Maya Angelou said one day, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. And the greatest stories ever told are of those who never give up. Oh, closer, sorry. There we go. There we go. Is that better? Okay, perfect. Sorry. Tonight, I'm going to be letting go of a nasty secret that I've been keeping for over 40 years. The secret, thank you. The secret I'm going to reveal to you, I'm just going to do this instead. Sorry. The secret I'm going to reveal to you today is very dark, but I promise you it ends in a positive light. I promise you will get through it, and I will get through it, and we'll be okay. Between the ages of 5 and 16, my dad often sexually abused me, physically, emotionally, and mentally abused me as well. My mom and my sister did not know to the extent of what happened to me. If you tell, I will kill you, is what he told me. Because I had seen the levels of rage and anger he showed towards me, I fully believe he could and he would. At the age of 5, I witnessed my dad go into his first complete rageful rant over a zucchini he left on the doorstep. His rage was so great that my mom grabbed me and my sister and took us to the back porch and said, "We are going to Grandma's." We spent a week at Grandma's house playing with toys and stuff like that. And then my mom came to tell us that we were going back. And I remember saying to her, I would rather live in a garbage dump than go back to him. At the same age of 5 to age 8, I remember him sometimes touching me in inappropriate places when he would lay next to me when I fell asleep. I remember having my eyes closed, but I wasn't quite asleep yet. I was so scared to open my eyes and make him aware I knew something was wrong, fearing what he could possibly do to me if I objected to his advances. My grade 3 teacher saw a huge change in me. She grew concerned, so she contacted the school counselor. I later learned the counselor contacted my parents and had a discussion with them. He told my mom that he believes that what I was experiencing was a mental block, and something was definitely wrong. When I was interviewed with him, I remember talking about my rabbits, and then he started talking about other things, and I wouldn't say anything because, again, I remember my dad threatening to kill me. My dad must have gotten scared of being caught because the periodic molestation had stopped, but the terror did not. He became very charming and kind to people. I remember he would give the vegetables he had grown in his garden to the members of our church. All I ever heard was, "Trevor, your dad is so nice. He's so charming and kind." I would cringe inside every time they said that. I did not have the trust and confidence to tell anyone, and the terror continued. My dad would often criticize everything I did at the dinner table. "Trevor, chew your food faster. Chew it slower. Eat faster. Eat slower. Don't take a sip of water. Take a sip of water." He specifically targeted me. My sister would still sit at the table, but he treated her like a princess. And I told her, I am so glad that you did not get abused by him. But we had two totally different experiences while living under the same roof. Why he treated me this way, it was way beyond me. During the weekdays, my dad would go to work at 7 a.m. and then come home at 7 a.m. and then come home at 3 p.m. My mom would go to work at 9 a.m. and then go home or come home around 5. I would come home from school from 3, which left me 2 hours alone with him. Each day, I would come home to work, and there were some times he would have the drapes closed, and he would also have the doors locked. I would knock on the door repeatedly, and he would not let me in. And it wasn't until my mom came up in the driveway that he would open the drapes and open the door to let me in. I couldn't even go to the bathroom. I would just sit on the swing and just wait and wait. I hated spending time alone with him. I would get such painful tension in my shoulders because I would always be cowering and holding all this stress. Whether my mom was going shopping, going to church, or going anywhere, and I was going to be alone with my dad, I begged her, please take me with you. One day she said to me, Trevor, you're always with me. I think you should stay home. You can't come shopping with me today. Stay home. And I was scared. The stress and anxiety I was feeling, carrying the secret, just about pushed me over the edge at 9. One Saturday morning, I was home alone with my dad. He was outside doing yard work. I was watching my morning cartoons. Out of nowhere, he started to release a really scary rage. He was calling me outside to go mow the lawn. He was calling me every name in the book. He couldn't stop yelling at the top of his lungs. As I was getting ready to go outside, I felt so unsafe. He was out of his mind, and I couldn't handle it anymore. Before I went outside, I grabbed my jackknife, and I hid it in my hand inside my coat pocket. I went outside in the backyard where I saw my dad kneeling by the lawnmower, still calling me every name in the book. I started my descent down the porch. His back was turned to me. And I began to imagine myself stabbing him in the back with my jackknife. I had the knife in my hand, and I was ready to stab him in the back. As I approached him, I looked at the blade and noticed it was too small to do any damage. I feared I wouldn't succeed, I'd go to jail, or be killed. I decided not to do it, even though he was in still a complete rage, directed towards me, and I didn't know when it was going to stop. One night I was sleeping, I woke up with an eerie feeling. I turned my head, and I looked up, and my dad was standing over me, standing in his underwear. I froze in fear. I managed to get the courage to ask him, Dad, what are you doing? His response was, shut the up and go back to sleep. He then proceeded back to his bedroom. What was he doing? What was he thinking? I was playing football with the neighborhood kids in the backyard. I had to go to the bathroom, so I called for a timeout. My dad invited the other 5 kids into the house to get something to drink. The hallway entrance was locked, so I had to go through my parents' room to get to the bathroom. I was in the middle of going to the bathroom, and my dad walked in. He then called out to the other boys in the house and said, Hey boys, come here. I could hear the boys coming into the bathroom. Look at this, boys. Look at Trevor going to the bathroom. Take a good look at his Peter. I was horrified. The boys came to my dad and gave him the weirdest look. They knew this was wrong. They had no interest in looking at me. They ran out of the room and went home. I was praying to God that one of the boys would tell at least one of their parents. I saw the disgust in their faces. Someone should have done something, but nothing was done. When I was entering my teenage years, I noticeably became bigger. And him noticeably, he was becoming older. My dad was raging against me one day in the kitchen. My dad was standing in front of a flight of stairs. I measured him up and realized he wasn't as strong as he used to be. I measured myself and realized I'm big. And knowing that I could have pushed him down the flight of stairs, I just said to him, "Do you really want to do this now?" And that's when I know that he was no longer able to really bully me. I remember when I was about 9, we were alone in the house, and he went on a tirade again, just everything, just saying every nasty word in the book to me. And after he was done, I turned to him and I finally spoke up and I said, "Dad, why do you hate me so much?" And he turned around, looked at me, and then walked away. You'd think that a father or mother would say, "Why? Why do you think I hate you?" It was in that moment that I know that I was living a nightmare, and it was horrible. I made it my purpose as a teenager to stay away from him as much as possible. I got a job at 16 and spent time with my friends, taught myself how to play tennis. At 18, I got my first car. I did not stay at home. I just let him. I didn't want to be in part of his world. As soon as I can get an apartment, I was out of there. One day, my mom and dad sat me and my sister down for a talk. "Trevor, Dad has been diagnosed with bowel cancer. It's terminal. The doctor gives him 5 years to live." In my head, I was thinking, can we make it down to 3? I watched my dad go through the chemo, and he became so frail and so sick. He was off work, and he sat in his recliner all day, withering away, but I did not feel bad for him. The only lessons he taught me in life were the what nots to do's. I used to go out with my friend Kyle a lot. We used to go for drives. One Thursday night in January, we decided to take an evening drive. I was leaving the house, and I saw my dad out chopping wood. Kyle and I went for a drive and started talking about everyday things. And then I was getting a nudge from the universe, God, divine light, whatever you want to call it. This nudge was telling me to make amends with my dad. This nudge was intense. I was really bothered by it. So I told Kyle, "Can you just drop me off at home?" I got home around 11 p.m. Everyone in the house was asleep, including my dad. I crashed out on my bed. I tried my best to go to sleep and ignore this nudge. I finally started to have a conversation with the universe. "What do you want from me? You want me, out of all people, to make amends with him? My dad? You want me to make the first move? Hell no. He abused me. He hates me. That's too much of a request." I felt I could manage maybe to give him a small recognition at church on Sunday. Fine, I will think of something, but I am not happy. So I began to fall asleep, only to be woken up at 1 a.m. to the sounds of my father screaming out to my mom. The screams were coming from the bathroom. Donna, help me. I'm on the floor." Holy crap. Things were about to go down. He was in trouble. I was too scared to see what was happening. I saw the light go on in the bathroom. My mom quickly called the ambulance. I lay there in shock. The nudge I got from the universe was real. I learned he was internally bleeding, and they gave him a max of 11 pints of blood, and it wasn't working. He was going to die that morning. We all quickly had a chance to say our last words to him. I wanted to say so many things, but as I looked into his eyes, I could tell he wanted to hear only one thing. My last words to my father was, "I love you." With a weak voice, he said, "I love you too." Wow, I never thought I'd ever hear that. Shortly after he died, I felt the need to return home. I walked into the house and I sat on the old recliner and looked out the big window. The house was silent. It felt different. He was gone. I would never be hurt again. I soaked in that reality. I struggled many years after his death. I thought this secret could have gone to his grave, so I didn't tell anyone. As I grew up, I moved on as much as I could. I stopped thinking about him. I surely didn't miss him. To this day, our family doesn't talk about him. We practically don't even acknowledge his existence. At Christmas, I don't say, "Hey, I wish Dad was here." I don't even have a picture of him. The only thing that comes to my mind when I think about him and that nudge that I got from the universe, I thought, okay, he got to hear me say I love him for a split second. How does that help me? How does that help him? I started to meditate on it, and after some deep meditation, the answer struck me like a high five to the head by a chair. That nudge, much more than a nudge, that nudge was much more than a nudge to make amends. That was an answer to prayer. Whoa, it was his prayer. I wasn't expecting my dad to die that day. My dad was chopping wood. He looked fine. He was 2 years into his cancer, and they had given him 5 years to live. There was no reason to worry. I didn't think anything was wrong, but my dad sure knew something was wrong. His prayer was to make amends to me, but he didn't have the gonads to do it himself. He pleaded to the universe to help him with his need to make amends with me before he died, and the universe nudged me to give him that. It's unfathomable to think a father could display so much cruelty to his son. What is equally unfathomable is a son gaining the ability to forgive his father who showed nothing but cruelty. Because of this experience, I have learned the power of forgiveness. I learned what forgiveness is and what it isn't. Forgiveness to me is fully accepting accepting fully that the past couldn't or would be any different than what it was. Forgiveness to me is not condoning or releasing someone of the responsibility, but to own up to their transgressions. If my dad had survived, I promise he would not be in my life, and I promise he would be in jail. Forgiveness is not a one-shot solution. I have to forgive on a daily basis. I have a close to photographic memory, and I literally relive these moments every day. It cripples me on a daily basis. The anxiety and the fear is still affecting me today. I need to meditate, go to therapy, and take my medications to help me. I live with many forms of mental illness. I live with bipolar disorder, PTSD, rape trauma, major depression. Some of it is genetic and chemical imbalance. Some of it is trauma-related after my dad's abuse. I often think my dad must have been mentally abused as a child himself. I knew nothing about him. When I was diagnosed with my mental illnesses, one of the greatest fears was that the genetics would come from my dad and that I would be like him. I'm happy to say that cycle stopped with me. I'm an advocate for kindness. I don't have any kids, but I have 2 amazing nephews, and I spend most of my time with them. Every time I see them, I tell them how proud I am of them and how much I love them. I hug them, and they hug me back. I have the privilege to run my own business that is meditation-based, and I advocate for mental health awareness in the workplace. It makes me so happy because the cycle of abuse ended with me. I was asked, how do you know you truly forgave him? It's because every day I show people kindness, shine my light into this world, and have peace of mind, and have the ability to share the world with this amazing story. Remember, he threatened to kill me if I ever told. Well, here I am, telling the world, healing while I'm doing it. When you have truly forgiven and loved your enemy, you have mastered love. Thank you. Thank you.
Trevor Assman.